Ferrari 296. That was until the previous owner crashed it, and then I bought it in hopes to rebuild it.
Mat Armstrong is known for doing what most people think is impossible. He buys damaged supercars, cars that insurance companies have written off, and brings them back to life step by step on camera. His videos are not just about fixing cars. They are about proving that skill, patience, and determination can overcome even the most complex problems. So we decided to rebuild a crashed Ferrari 296 GTB. It seemed like just another challenge he would eventually conquer. The car had been badly damaged in an accident before he bought it, but that is exactly the type of project he usually takes on. However, this time things did not go as expected. After months of careful rebuilding, using real parts and following proper methods, the car still refused to start. This was not just a small issue. It was something deeper, something that could not be fixed with tools alone. What made the situation even more surprising was the fact that Matt spent around $24,000 on a brand new hybrid battery, believing that this would solve the problem. But even after installing such an expensive part, the car remained completely dead. This is where the story began to shift from a simple rebuild into something much bigger. It started raising serious questions about how modern cars are designed and who really controls them after they are sold. The Ferrari 296 GTB is not just a normal car. It is a hybrid supercar filled with advanced technology, software systems, and electronic controls. And in this case, those systems seem to be blocking the car from working, even after everything physical had been repaired. This situation made people wonder, is this just bad luck, or is there a bigger issue hidden behind the scenes? When Mat Armstrong began working on the Ferrari 296 GTB, he approached it the same way he approaches all his projects. He carefully inspected the damage, sourced genuine parts, and documented every step of the rebuild process on camera. The car had suffered serious structural damage, but over time, he managed to repair and rebuild it piece by piece. He even went through official Ferrari channels to order parts, including components from the Ferrari 296 Challenge race car. These parts were accepted and delivered without any issue at first. This gave the impression that everything was going smoothly and that Ferrari was indirectly supporting the rebuild through its parts network. However, things changed suddenly. Ferrari flagged the car's chassis number and stopped supplying parts. They stated that the components being used did not match the original specifications of the car. This created a major problem because some of those parts had already been installed. Now, Matt was stuck in a situation where he had started a build using parts Ferrari had sold him, but he could not complete it because Ferrari refused to continue supporting it. At the same time, the main issue remained unsolved. The car would not start. When Matt reached out to Ferrari for help, their response came with strict conditions. They said the car needed to go through an official inspection at an authorized body shop before they would even consider helping. But the car, in its current modified state, could not pass that inspection. This created a loop with no clear solution. To get help, the car needed to be approved. But to get approved, it needed help first. This situation made it seem like the system was designed in a way that kept independent builders locked out. The real problem with the Ferrari 296 GTB was not just mechanical damage. It was something much more complex. Modern hybrid supercars rely heavily on software systems that control how the car operates. In this case, the issue was connected to the car's high-voltage hybrid system. Even though all the physical parts were repaired or replaced, the car required a special authorization signal from Ferrari's official diagnostic tools before it could start. This signal is not something that independent mechanics or builders can access. It is only available within Ferrari's authorized dealer network. This means that even if someone has the skills, tools, and correct parts, they still cannot fully repair the car without the manufacturer's approval. This is very different from older cars, where fixing a problem simply required identifying a fault and replacing the broken part. With modern systems, the car itself can refuse to operate unless certain software conditions are met. In Matt's case, the system kept showing a fault code that would return every time it was cleared. It was like the car was waiting for permission to start, permission that only Ferrari could give. This raises an important question about ownership. If you buy a car, rebuild it, and have everything physically working, but it still cannot start because of the software lock, do you really own that car? Or does the manufacturer still have control over it? This situation shows how technology has changed the relationship between car owners and manufacturers, shifting power away from the owner and back to the company. This was not the first time Mat Armstrong faced challenges from manufacturers, but the Ferrari 296 GTB situation was very different. In the past, he rebuilt cars like the Ferrari 812 Superfast without major issues. That car used a more traditional engine setup, without heavy reliance on software systems. As a result, once the physical repairs were completed, the car worked as expected. But with newer cars, especially hybrids and highly electronic vehicles, things have changed. Similar issues have appeared in other cases as well. For example, when Matt worked on a Bugatti, he faced restrictions on parts and service access. Bugatti required that all repairs be done within their official network, making it extremely difficult for independent builders to work on the car. Despite these challenges, Matt managed to complete the rebuild using alternative solutions and expert help. In another case, a Bugatti Veyron that seemed to have a major gearbox problem was actually fixed by replacing just 2 small fuses. This showed that not all problems require expensive solutions, but access to information and cooperation is often the biggest barrier. These examples highlight a pattern across the automotive industry. Many manufacturers are creating systems that limit independent repair and keep control within their own networks. This is not just about luxury cars. Similar trends can be seen in other brands and even in everyday vehicles. It shows that the issue is not limited to one company or one model, but is part of a larger shift in how modern cars are designed and maintained. The problems with the Ferrari 296 GTB are not just technical. They also have a financial side. Many buyers purchase cars like this not only for driving, but also as investments or as a way to gain access to future models. In the case of the 296 GTB, some buyers treated it as a stepping stone to more exclusive Ferrari models. However, the market did not respond as expected. Prices for the 296 GTB dropped significantly, with some owners losing large amounts of money in a short period of time. This was surprising because Ferrari is usually known for strong resale values. At the same time, older models without hybrid systems were increasing in value. This suggests that buyers may be more cautious about newer cars that rely heavily on complex technology and manufacturer control. The situation becomes even more concerning when you consider the repair limitations. If a car cannot be easily repaired or serviced without the manufacturer's involvement, it becomes less attractive to buyers. This affects its long-term value and usability. In simple terms, people want to feel confident that they can use and maintain their car without unnecessary restrictions. When that confidence is lost, it impacts both the ownership experience and the market value. This shows that technical design choices can have a direct impact on financial outcomes. The story of the Ferrari 296 GTB is not just about one car or one builder. It is part of a much larger conversation about the future of ownership and the right to repair. As more products, including cars, become dependent on software, manufacturers are gaining more control over how those products are used and maintained. This has already been seen in other industries, such as farming equipment and electronics. In many cases, users are not allowed to repair their own devices or use independent services without restrictions. This has led to growing support for right-to-repair laws, which aim to give owners more freedom and access to tools, parts, and information. In the automotive world, this issue is becoming more important as cars become more advanced. The situation faced by Mat Armstrong clearly shows what can happen when access is limited. A fully rebuilt car with all the correct parts can still be unusable because of a software lock. This raises serious questions about what ownership really means in the modern world. If a product can be controlled remotely or restricted after purchase, then ownership becomes less about control and more about permission. As technology continues to evolve, this issue will likely become even more important. The Ferrari 296 GTB case is a clear example that helps people understand this problem in a real and visible way. One of the most important ideas that comes out of this story is what many people now call a closed-loop system. In simple words, this means a system where every step depends on the manufacturer, and there is no easy way to go outside of it. In the case of Ferrari 296 GTB, this loop is very clear. You need Ferrari to supply parts, Ferrari to approve the build, Ferrari to run diagnostics, and Ferrari authorize the car to start. If any one of those steps is blocked, the entire process stops. For independent builders like Mat Armstrong, this creates a huge barrier. It is not about skill or effort anymore. Even if you know exactly what the problem is and how to fix it, you cannot move forward without permission. This is very different from how cars used to work. In older vehicles, once you own the car, you had full control over it. You could repair it, modify it, or take it to any mechanic you trusted. But now, that control is slowly shifting back to manufacturer. The closed-loop system is not always obvious to buyers at the time of purchase. Everything seems normal when the car is new and under warranty. The problems only appear later, when something goes wrong and the owner tries to fix it independently. At that point, they realize that they are locked into a system of very limited options. This is why Matt's situation is so important. It shows the real-world impact of these systems in a way that people can understand. It is not just theory or speculation. It is a real car, a real rebuild, and a real problem that cannot be solved without breaking out of that loop. To understand the situation fairly, it is also important to look at the manufacturer's side. Companies like Ferrari do not create these systems without reason. Modern hybrid and high-performance cars are extremely complex machines. They involve high-voltage systems, advanced electronics, and safety features that must work perfectly to avoid serious risks. From a manufacturer's point of view, controlling repairs and diagnostics helps ensure that everything is done correctly. If an untrained person works on a high-voltage system and something goes wrong, it could lead to accidents, damage, or even injury. There's also the issue of brand reputation. Companies like Ferrari are known for quality and performance. If a poorly repaired car fails and people associate that failure with the brand, it can harm their image. By keeping control within their official network, they try to maintain high standards. However, the problem arises when this control becomes too strict. When it prevents skilled and experienced builders from completing legitimate repairs, it starts to feel less like protection and more like restriction. In Matt's case, he was not cutting corners. He was using genuine parts, documenting everything, and following proper methods. Yet he was still blocked. This suggests that the system does not always distinguish between unsafe work and independent work. It treats both the same, which can be frustrating for people who have the knowledge and ability to do things correctly. This balance between safety and freedom is at the center of the debate. The effects of systems like this are not limited to YouTubers or high-profile builders. Independent mechanics and small workshops are also affected in a big way. These businesses have always played an important role in the automotive world. They provide more affordable services, local support, and often specialized expertise. But as cars become more dependent on software and manufacturer control systems, it becomes harder for these workshops to operate. Without access to official diagnostic tools and data, they cannot fully repair certain vehicles. This forces customers to go back to authorized dealers, which are often more expensive and less flexible. Over time, this could reduce competition in the market and limit choices for consumers. It could also lead to higher costs for repairs and maintenance. For many people, especially those who cannot afford dealership prices, this is a serious issue. It changes the entire ownership experience. Instead of having freedom and options, owners become dependent on a single network. In some cases, even simple problems can turn into major expenses because only authorized centers can fix them. This shift also affects innovation. Independent mechanics often come up with creative solutions and improvements. If they are locked out of modern systems, that innovation could slow down. The story of the Ferrari 296 GTB highlights this problem clearly. It shows what happens when access is restricted, not just for one person, but for an entire group of skilled professionals. Another important aspect of this situation is how it affects consumers and their expectations. In the past, buying a car was a straightforward process. You paid for it, owned it, and had the freedom to use and maintain it as you wished. But with modern cars, especially those with advanced technology, that expectation is starting to change. Many buyers are not fully aware of the limitations that come with these systems. They focus on performance, design, and features, but do not think about long-term repair and maintenance. The case of the Ferrari 296 GTB shows why this awareness is important. If a car depends on manufacturer approval to operate, that is something buyers should know before making a purchase. It could influence their decision, especially if they plan to keep the car for a long time or modify it. As more stories like this come to light, consumer awareness is likely to grow. People may start asking more questions before buying, such as, can this car be repaired independently? Are diagnostic tools available outside the dealer network? What happens if the manufacturer refuses support? These questions could change the way cars are marketed and sold. Manufacturers may need to be more transparent about these aspects in the future. At the same time, informed consumers can push for better policies and more balanced systems. Knowledge is a powerful tool, and as more people understand these issues, the industry may be forced to adapt. Content creators like Mat Armstrong play a very important role in bringing these issues to light. Without his videos, the situation with the Ferrari 296 GTB might have remained unknown to the general public. His approach of documenting every step, including failures, makes the story more real and relatable. Viewers can see exactly what is happening, rather than just hearing about it in theory. This transparency builds trust and helps people understand complex problems in a simple way. It also puts pressure on manufacturers because their decisions are being seen by millions of people. In the past, issues like this might have stayed within small communities of mechanics or industry experts. Now, they can reach a global audience in a matter of days. This changes the balance of power. Manufacturers are no longer the only ones controlling the narrative. Independent creators can share their experiences and challenge existing systems. This does not mean that every claim is perfect or that every situation is the same, but it does create space for discussion and debate. In Matt's case, his large audience means that his experience has a wider impact. It is not just about fixing one car. It is about starting a conversation that could influence the future of industry. This shows how digital platforms have become powerful tools for accountability and awareness. In the end, the story of the Ferrari 296 GTB is about much more than a single car that would not start. It is about the changing nature of ownership in a world where technology plays a central role. It shows how control can shift from the owner to the manufacturer, not through physical limitations, but through software and systems. It also highlights the challenges faced by independent builders, mechanics, and everyday consumers.